Hi there. So when you wrote to me and you mentioned that you were having trouble with funding for your nonprofit organization, I thought, let me do a tarot reading, which I normally don't do unsolicited tarot readings, but um, I thought maybe this could offer some helpful advice to you, or take a temperature read on the energy of the situation and whatnot. So I've already shuffled all of these cards, so I'm just gonna draw. I'm gonna draw one of each of these oracle cards for you to kind of set the theme here. Okay. Okay. Let's see what we've got for like the theme of the reading. Okay. So from the gods and goddesses and sirens and titans deck over here, we've got Vesta, and it's the concept of home. So that's interesting as a theme for funding. We've got a concept of home, and then from this other oracle deck that I pulled for you, we've got a card called the Perfect Storm, and its description is the courage to step into life. So those two things coming together, that's like really interesting. I feel like, one of the most obvious interpretations of home is that, well, considering that your nonprofit organization, or just nonprofit for short, or how should I call it? I don't know. I'll say nonprofit or your organization or whatever like that. The home could mean that. Well, what the way I was going to go about this reading was I was going to just take a temperature read with the tarot cards, and then I was going to look at it from two perspectives, like an advice like what to do, what not to do, and then I was also going to kind of look at the aspect of, is your funding most likely to come from a known source or a new source, something that's either, like known in the sense that you've already done business with them, or maybe unknown in that, not like unknown like you've never heard of them, but like maybe someone you don't have a business relationship with, and see what's more likely. Home, I could see that, like, if you're looking for funding from different places, home could mean, since your nonprofit, focuses on a different continent. It could be that it's like, oh, okay, Europe, or it could be your home country, or it could be, or whatever, that maybe there's going to be like a focus or a theme of looking closer to home if you have been looking for funding farther away from home, meaning in other countries, farther from the center of your world, or maybe in Africa, like, yeah, I don't know, like, so that could be part of the theme. The perfect storm, and I know you're not a native English speaker, so I don't know if you know the phrase perfect storm, but the perfect storm, a storm is the weather, and a whole bunch of things happen in weather, like bad weather, right? Bad weather. But the perfect storm, the aspect of the perfect storm means that it's when something happens where a lot of different things have to come together to make something happen. So a perfect storm would be, well, what's a good example of a perfect storm? A perfect storm would be like, if you describe the perfect storm of a car accident, that's so negative. I don't want to pick something negative. Let me think. Oh, the perfect storm of winning the lottery. If you win money in the lottery, what's the perfect storm? Well, the perfect storm might be, oh, well, the day I bought my winning lottery ticket, there was bad weather. And it was raining, and I hit a like the rain caused a hole in the highway, and my tire hit the hole in the highway, and then my car needed repair. And then I couldn't go to where I was going, so then I went to the car repair place, and then I met someone in the waiting room, and then they said, let's go get coffee down the street. And then you go get coffee down the street while you're waiting for your car to be repaired. And then they're like, oh, let me stop in this shop. Oh, the shop happens to sell lottery tickets. Oh, why don't we buy them? And you never buy lottery tickets, but because this stranger told you to, you happen to buy one. It's like that sort of thing where a whole bunch of different things have to happen in order for things to work. And come out. It could be used positively or negatively. So I feel like these two things together are kind of saying like, okay, there's going to be an aspect of home. So something known to you, something, if to be successful in your funding, something close, probably geographically close, but it could be close in another sense of close, like close to you emotionally, socially, I don't know what aspect. But there also might be, so there's the closeness, but also a perfect storm where it's like, oh, this person who's close to you didn't know that you did this kind of work. And then all of a sudden, oh, and I know this other person who is actually looking for an opportunity to donate money because they run a charity that funds something. So I feel like the perfect storm, there's going to be a fate aspect, right? A luck aspect, but complicated, where like things have to come together for this to happen. So let's see how those pan out as we draw the tarot cards. These are interesting cards to get. They're all very significant cards. So it looks like you're coming out of a place where things were really evolving. The moon is about evolution. And so you can see that, the evolutionary aspect is the crayfish crawling out of the water. And that kind of represents how life came, all life on Earth started in the water and then moved up onto land. And the evolution of an organization is also a path forward. There's guardians and helpers that are like helping keep you afloat. And then the other aspect of the moon is you're coming out of a place, what's been happening recently. I'd say that there's an intuitive, you've had some intuitive help. The thing about the moon is that the moon, when the moon rotates around the Earth, the same face always faces the Earth, right? You never see the back of the moon. You only see the front of the moon because it rotates once every month and it's always facing the Earth. So that aspect of the moon means there's some sort of hidden knowledge because you can't see the backside of the moon. You only see the one side. So the moon is kind of the wisdom. It's like the hidden knowledge. That's why one of the reasons why it represents intuition. So I would say you're coming from a place where there's been a lot of intuition and a lot of evolution in terms of how the funding has been coming to you. At the present moment, I think something about the climate, things have been closed off to you. You got the Queen of Cups. So the Queen is the ruler of her suit. from a feminine aspect, and cups are all about emotions and flowing and love and stuff like that. So, the queen, if you look at the cup in or really a chalice, um, it's the only cup in the tarot deck that has a lid on it, right? So the cup is closed. So I feel like the present moment, people on an emotional level, things are kind of closed off right now in terms of like funding, right? So if people are feeling emotionally closed off because there's inflation, there's the war in Ukraine, there's I know where you are, there's like social security issues and government, arguments about that and protests. There's all sorts of stuff going on. So I think it's basically like people are close-fisted with their money, So queens also deliberate. They step back and they take time to make their decisions, right? A king wields a sword and they can make a more quick decision. Queens in tarot, they tend to step back, they tend to observe, and they tend to calculate. They make, they make the decision and they rule over things, but they tend to be slower and more deliberate. So I think that's the climate that we're in right now. People are closed off. There's an emotional component to it, the cups, and they're also being more deliberate, and they're taking longer to decide things with their money. The way we're headed, the Queen of Pentacles, which was reversed, we're heading to a place, again, with queens where people are still deliberating. They're still taking time, making very measured, calculated decisions. But the queen, however, the Queen of Pentacles, the pentacles are like coins. They do represent money. So I feel like, where you're headed, there is money, but it was reversed. And so the reversal is that things are tougher than you would expect, or they take longer than you would expect. So I think queens also, kings and queens, they fund their realms, right? The kings and queens have the, the purse strings, right? They control the purse. So I feel like there is funding possible for you, like just in this foundation right here. I feel like it's, but I feel like it's the reversal indicates it's going to take longer than you'd like. And people are going to be far more, they're going to scrutinize everything a lot more than, you'd like. So it's going to be tougher. It's definitely going to be tougher. So now, the way I wanted to look at the situation is that I think I mentioned earlier, there's two things I wanted to look at, and ow, my knee hurts. Let me shift a little. I want to look, I want to ask general advice. So what to do and what not to do. So let me pull two cards for that. Okay. So what to do, what not to do. That's so bizarre. Okay. So what to do is you've got the Ace of Pentacles, which harmonizes with the Queen of Pentacles, right? They're both pentacles, and they're also both reversed. So the reversal here, what you have to do is going to be delayed. But I think, you can see that the hand is offering a coin. The aces in tarot, indicate a divinely offered opportunity. So that's why the hand's coming out of the cloud. It's kind of like the hand of God or the hand of universe. So there is a literal offering, an opportunity for money in your midst to take advantage of. Now, it was a reversed card, however, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. It's going to take longer than you would like. But there is the divinely offered opportunity. You'll also notice that the scene of the card is a garden with flowers and, you know, like a hedge, and there's a portal. So I think there's another positive indicator here, which is that, you know, it's going to take you into the future, into the far realms. Like there's a way out of where you are. You're in a beautiful place, and then in the distance there's the mountain. So there's a journey ahead. So I think, you know, what to do is that it's going to be looking for something that's there's something's going to be divinely offered to you from the universe somehow. It's going to come your way. So you need to be on the lookout for that. And I think the following cards that I bring will help clarify this. So let's just pause on that for a moment. What not to do? This is confusing to me a little bit, but I don't understand how your corporation or your organization works. So this will probably make sense to you, even though it doesn't make sense to me. So the Lover's card in this kind of a reading, because the tarot is based on old concepts, the tarot was for people who were rich, right? Because if you could afford, like hundreds of years ago, if you could afford paper and cards, you were rich. Normal people couldn't afford cards. So the Lovers as a concept, what was love to the very rich, to the gentry, to the ruling class? Well, marriages were arranged, right? A duke and a duchess, or a king and a queen in different countries might have their children marry because, oh, you have the land I want. You will give me the daughter's dowry, or it's a business arrangement. So the Lovers often represents a contract, right? Because the lovers are coming together in terms of for things other than love, right? It's to serve the wants and needs of the parents, or to serve the state. So this is the advice on what not to do. So because of all that stuff about marriage and agreements, like it's kind of like a part of a treaty. Like if the king of Spain marries his daughter to the king of England, like it's not just because they're in love. It's because, like, oh, now we're going to agree not to fight a war. Now we're not going to, we're going to have this sort of trade relationship. So the Lovers as advice as to what not to do, to me, means like there might be some sort of contract. Like, I guess the concept would be a contract where you have to make an agreement with someone else for the long term. You have to sign an agreement. You have to enter into a legal agreement, something like that. So I don't know if, like, there's funding. I know how. Well, we have this expression in English called strings, like strings, des fils, right? So, like, if you say that something comes with strings attached, it means that someone gives you something, there are conditions. So I think what not to do here is that there may be, this is a caution, that one of your funding sources may come with a lot of conditions. And so you have to carefully scrutinize those conditions, or you might have to negotiate something about the conditions, or make the conditions go away, or just point out somehow to say, well, with these if you have all these conditions, you're not truly giving us this money. If you're telling us that you give us money, but we can only use it in this way, or that or if you give us money, we can't also do business with these other people, or receive donations from these other people. There's something about conditions, strings, contracts you're getting caution about that. So hopefully that will make sense to you, because I don't know anything about other than the 2 sentences you wrote to me in the letter, right? So be cautious of strings, be cautious of contracts, agreements, legal agreements, stuff like that. But in the meantime, what to do? Some divinely offered opportunity. And you know what? Now that I keep saying divinely offered, divinity is about religion. So I don't know if there's like a charitable organization or like the Catholic Church or some there. The other aspect of this card could be like, oh, like as a non-religious or secular organization, how surprising that we would have a donation from a religious organization or a spiritual organization or something like that. That's another aspect of this card, because I keep saying it out loud, that you might be on the lookout for. However, a religious organization may have strings, and since I know what your organization does, I can imagine sorts of strings about what you can and can't say or can and can't teach or something like that. So maybe that's what that's all about. I don't know. So that was the advice to do and not to do. The other aspect I wanted to look at was, let's take a temperature reading on where the funds, where it looks like the funds might come from. Because like the one other thing I was thinking about at this question is, there are people that you already have a relationship with, so known sources, and there are people that you or organizations that you don't have a current relationship with, or unknown places. So I'm going to draw 3 cards. I'm going to draw what's the energy look like of known organizations to give you funding, or known parties, entities, whatever you might want to say, things, unknown. And then let's look at, well, maybe it's a combination of both. And of course I'm not going to pull a card from none, because I think, there's no such thing as none in this aspect. So, so for known organizations, unknown, maybe a mixture of the both. Okay, so known, unknown, both. These are not the most positive cards. Okay, well, it looks like you've been having a tough time with the organizations that are already known to you and that you already have a relationship with. This is the 5 of Pentacles. Pentacles do represent money. They represent the material plane. They represent health, your body, the earth, stuff like that. The 2 figures in the card are lepers. And the stained glass represents a church. And, a church is supposed to be the one place where the doors are always open. Like churches in the old days didn't have locks on their doors, right? Because who would steal from a church? But these people are lepers. We know that because he's wearing a bell, and the bell is to warn people approaching that, or when they approach, that they're lepers, you need to stay away because they're contagious. So these people have been turned away by the one place that has their door always open, and the card is reversed. So things are harder, just in general, taking longer. It's tough. It's just difficult. So the known looks terrible. The unknown, I don't know. One more thing. Since I'm talking about a church, and we talked about the divine thing, I don't know if there's any people who donate money to you that relate to religion. But one more thing to think about, the fact that there's a church in this card, right? The people who are unknown to you, this is the 10 of Swords. The 10 of Swords, swords are the suit of air and of mental energy. So they're about thought, ideas, mental energy, all of that sort of stuff. And the 10 in this suit represents like complete mental exhaustion. So, because the figure, as the numbers get bigger in Swords, the energy of air, mental energy gets bigger and bigger. So, like when thoughts are out of control, and you have too many thoughts. What is that? What is that? That's anxiety. So this is like a card of like being overwhelmed by anxiety in some ways. Like it's over because you're just mentally depleted. So this could represent that on the front of people unknown to you, like things are feeling exhausted, right? Like you might feel that you have exhausted all of your options. Like you don't know where else to go because like you think you have tried everything. Of course, no one has tried everything. But I think there's definitely a mental exhaustion on the working with strangers or working with people that are not already known to you, or organization, or working with organizations that you don't already have a relationship with. So things are feeling like really bad that way. Interestingly, though, you got a positive card for a combination of the two. So I don't know if there's like the combination. I guess I didn't really define it well before I drew the card, but I feel like the combination could be one aspect of the combination. And I think, I was maybe thinking this simple thing is like, maybe you get some money from here and some money from there. What I'm thinking, this could actually, another expression of both could be you kind of know the organization, but you kind of don't know the organization. Meaning like, maybe there's a very large company that you already have gotten a donation from, but you have never dealt with their subsidiary, right? Or maybe you have dealt with a subsidiary, the small company, but you have never dealt with the parent organization before. Something like that. Maybe this like both isn't like getting from two different sources, but somehow like a combination of the two. Like it's somebody that you both know already, you've already approached, or you already have some sort of relationship with, but you haven't had this particular kind of funding relationship before, something like that. This looks more positive. It's also reversed, so it's going to be difficult. But, you've got the woman in the garden, and she's enjoying her success. She has 9 coins. That's a lot of money. And she's wealthy, right? The one thing about this card, every card has a positive and a negative aspect to it. The negative aspect of this card is that she's isolated. You'll notice like there's a beautiful garden in this card, but there's a door and you can get in and out. She's in a garden, but it's all overgrown and she can't get out. So she's isolated in some way, right? She doesn't look unhappy, but she's isolated. And there's even the snail. The little snail represents, a creature that carries their home on their back, right? And so like they're like snails are also trapped in their homes. They can't leave. The crayfish can. The crayfish that evolves can leave. Like crayfishes, they're those, what are they? They're hermit crabs, and they crawl like this, and they have like a shell. They move into someone else's shell, and then when they get too big, they leave that shell and they get a new shell, right? So in the past, I don't know if the snail and the crayfish relate to each other in the past about how, this person can go from shell to shell, but now there's like a feeling of being trapped or something like that. And actually that could be the contract aspect, right? When you sign a contract, you're kind of trapped because you can't break a contract without lawyers and legal agreements. Or even if it's not a legal contract, even if it's just a gentleman's agreement, sometimes you can be trapped. So I don't know if this makes any sense, but just in case it does, looks like there's money. It looks like there's isolation, though, in the combination of the two. So from a strategic perspective from your organization, I don't know if there's some sort of this either the combination of it's something that's both known and unknown to you, or it may be just the simple definition, like trying to go to multiple sources, both this and that. But these individually, they look so bad, but this combination card looks so positive. I'm wondering if it's like, if it's a twist, like it's a twist on, I wasn't, asking it the right way. Let me just pause for a minute. I'm going to think if there's any other cards to draw before I sum up. If there's any other way to look at this. I can't think of any other way to draw the cards. And, since you wrote to me, there were 2 sentences. I don't know any of the situation. It's hard to go any further, I think, in terms of detail. Hopefully this will make some sense to you. Let me just draw one card for the conclusion to sum it all up. Okay. So you got the Hanged Man reversed. So this card usually looks right side up when it's actually reversed, right? So now that's how it actually is. So the Hangman, to sum up, this is a really positive card. First of all, his legs kind of make the shape of a 4. So if the 4 means anything to you, just in case. But the Hanged Man, I think I said that the major arcana cards, these are particularly significant. So this is particularly significant in your life. This is like a milestone right now, what's going on. So what the Hanged Man represents is someone who has to make a very big sacrifice to receive knowledge and insight, right? So there's the illumination around his head. That's the knowledge and the insight, trying to get the knowledge and the insight to assimilate into his psyche, into his brain. And if you look at a few cards earlier, where is it? See, the Hermit meditates on something, and all of that knowledge is outside of him. So he comes after meditating, he has all of that knowledge, it's outside of his body still. And so the Hanged Man is the process of now bringing the past experience in and assimilating it into part of your soul. But what's required is a sacrifice. So that's why he's hanging himself upside down, right? This represents the god Odin in Norse mythology, who hung himself upside down from the tree of life in order to gain the knowledge of writing, to gain the knowledge of writing with a W-R-I-T-I-N-G, writing, not riding a horse, to gain other insights, according to myth. So to get the Hangman in summary, I think something about your organization or you, something has to be sacrificed in order to figure out what this is. And I don't know if it's just maybe it's in order to get on it could be something simple, sacrifice, right? In order to get on the plane to have the conversation with this person, you have to cancel your vacation because the only time this person that has the money can talk to you is when you were planning a vacation. Maybe it's a simple sacrifice like that. The sacrifice could be something about maybe I have to not do something I was planning on doing with my career in order to make my time devoted to this organization work. So, and it might not even be you because you work for an organization. It might be other people in the organization. The organization itself might have to make a sacrifice, meaning we need funding to keep doing what we're doing, but we also wanted to do it in country number 2, country number 3, country number 4. The sacrifice could be, well, we can keep doing it in just where we already are, but we can no longer add more countries. That might be a part of the sacrifice that's coming up, so that you can move forward. I don't know. So think about the notion of sacrifice. But yeah, there's so we talked about home, the perfect storm. So there's something really, like, I think thematically, this whole agreement that, like, that might be weird. It might be close to home somehow, either geographically, close to your heart, like, is another way to look at home. Like, home is where the heart is, we say in English. So your heart might be in it. So it might be, I don't know, like family, friends, like the place you went to school, like your alma mater, that kind of home. I don't know. So home, but strings attached. And then the perfect storm. A lot of things are going to have to happen and come together for this to happen. So, like, perfect storm again, like, oh, it's like we have both, maybe the combination is like it's like an organization that we kind of have done business with, but kind of haven't done business with in the past. And, like, the people have to converge or conversations have to happen. So perfect storm, and then a sacrifice. So I think that's it. I hope things work out for you. I hope things go well. And I hope everything is pointing to it being really difficult. I'm sure it's already difficult, so you know that. But I hope it's not difficult for too much longer, and that you have continuity with the organization. Anyway, best of luck, bonne chance, and I will talk to you soon.